welcome to the end of Series 1 special of The Pool is Abstract, where we're going to be talking about our thoughts of the Doctor, his companions, and the overall thoughts and discussions of the series. I'm Charlotte, and with me is the Doctor to my Rose Tyler.
Oh, that's cute. Hi, my name is Connor.
Hello.
It's weird to be on the receiving end of this.
Yeah, it is a bit strange, I'm not gonna lie. So they said we're kind of going to discuss how we thought of the season.
Yeah.
There's going to be a little quiz halfway through. Warning, it may be a bit difficult. I'm not really sure.
I'm sweating.
Good.
Okay.
But yeah, so let's jump into it and have our overall thoughts on the season. So I kind of know, but this is a positive thought for you, isn't it? I know you love this season.
Yeah, I mean, Series 1 is one of, if not my favourite series. There's probably a tie-up between this and Series 4. Mm-hmm. Series 1 is... I don't want to go over, like, old ground all the time and repeat things I've said, like, a million times, but, like, not only is this, like, where I started the show, I didn't catch the first episode, but obviously this was my first series, but also just... Even watching it years later, this is one of the series that I think has stood the test of time the most. And... There were some episodes I didn't like as a kid that I grew to enjoy later, and vice versa, where my thoughts on Series 1 have more or less stayed the same from about 6 years old up to where I am now at 25, approaching 26. And yeah, my favourites I think are still my favourites, my least favourites are still my least favourites, and my overall kind of thoughts on the series as a whole are still positive.
Yeah, which is kind of shows its... quality, I guess.
Yeah.
Or at least the fondness that stayed with you.
Well, you say that because you're far less fond of Series 1 than I am.
Yeah, I am. But I think after watching all of this, I've grown more fond of it. Mm-hmm. I dislike the episodes that I disliked less.
Okay, that's good.
But I think a lot of the ones I disliked, I haven't loved, do you know what I mean? But I think there's a fondness. I think taking it in a different light helps that. Yeah,
I mean, and to be fair, something crazy would have to happen for you to hate an episode to then like it or really like it one viewing later.
But yeah, I mean? So I don't know. I just think, I think it's interesting how, after all this time it stayed the same for you. And I think a lot of people feel that way. I think a lot of people like Series 1, don't they?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I say, being where it is, I think a lot of people have nostalgia for it. So
that's true.
I mean, nostalgia is only ever a good thing. Nostalgia never hits in a bad way. But like I say, I think it's a testament to these first 4 series anyway. Because people always tell me, oh, you have nostalgia for those series. And it's like, yes, I do. But you forget, I also have nostalgia for the Moffat era as well. It's not as if the Moffat era happened like 5 years ago, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's true.
Like, do you know what I mean? Matt Smith's first series was 15 years ago.
Oh, God.
Do you know what I mean? I have nostalgia for all of it.
Yeah.
But I think there's something about the quality of the writing, and I know we talked about this before, but what we look for in the show, if you look for more of the sci-fi, whimsy, magical, fairy tale-esque nature, then I think the Stephen Moffat era, Matt Smith through to Peter Capaldi, is more for you, which I think is the case for you, where if you're a fan of the more grounded, character-driven stuff, maybe a bit less fantastical, but just a bit more like, I don't know, I don't know how to describe it other than conversations that in reality are quite mundane and quite dull and boring, and if you heard someone in real life talking about it, you would not listen to it because it would be boring. But in the context of getting to know these characters better,
it makes them feel more human, doesn't it?
It does. It makes them feel more fleshed out, and I know I said this, I think, in the last episode when we covered the finale, but it's not just how the Doctor meets people and then makes their lives better. Everyone in this series grows through each other.
Yeah.
The Doctor grows through Rose. The Doctor grows through Jack. Jack grows through the Doctor. Mickey grows through Jackie. And, all these characters grow through each other. It's not just about how the Doctor meets people and makes their lives better. And that's, I think, what I like about these first 4 series. But this one in particular, I think that truly holds up. And, yeah, obviously, I know... From the sounds of it, you've come around a bit more this time. But Series 1, No, I was going to say series 1 your least favourite of the original 4, but no, you said you like series 3 less.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things. I'm very much a fence sitter.
Yeah.
And I think, especially because my feelings onto something is, like many people, often driven about how something makes me feel.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can forget that if it's been a while. So I think that's why I struggle to say, I like this more than this, because if I've forgotten how I feel about that, then if I rewatch it, I'm like, actually, no, I really enjoyed that bit.
How much you enjoy a story tends to come down more to how it resonated with you emotionally than the quote-unquote objective quality of the writing.
Yeah, because it's one of those things.
That's why you like the Gator's kind of like rompy period piece
it's
episodes.
Don't get me wrong, a lot of them are very well written. But
yes.
I think...
I mean, this series one, The Unquiet Dead, I think is really well written.
But I think... I don't know, I like that, again, like you said, whimsy and kind of how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
I can, like, again, most people can objectively say how well something is, but then what's the point?
I guess the thing then is, if the way you judge the quality of something is based on how it makes you feel, does it have to make you feel a positive emotion, or is it just if it makes you feel anything?
No, it doesn't have to. It's neither, really. I don't have to feel anything, and it doesn't have to make me feel a positive emotion. Do you mean I don't need a scene which is like, really uplifting or really heart-wrenching? It's just how engaged I am with something, I guess.
Yeah.
So I find it very easy to be sucked into worlds.
Yes.
So I think sometimes I have different levels of that. And
I do find it funny because you always have your guard up.
Yeah.
And this doesn't just apply to Doctor Who, this applies to everything, where I'll say, you should watch this, I think you'll like it, and you have your guard up and you're like, I don't know. I'll say, okay, fine, I'll watch it on my own, you'll catch like 5 minutes and you'll be invested immediately.
Yeah. And I'm one of the easiest people to entertain in that sense.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, just because I'm entertained in it doesn't mean it's good, doesn't mean that I necessarily really like it. But I guess whether I see myself in that world kind of thing.
That's true, because you did tell me literally earlier today that you want to watch those Resident Evil movies again.
Yeah, because are they necessarily good?
They're awful.
No.
They're so bad.
But I genuinely... And did they bring much emotion to me? No. But there's some sort of comfort, and I think that's probably the key word, of it's comforting to watch. Sometimes, things can be so...
I know what you
generic that it's just easy to watch and you enjoy watching that.
Well, that's the
and
thing,
I think there's nothing wrong with that.
If you look at like my favourite shows, they are pretty much a 50-50 split between comfort watches and things that truly impacted me that I found very poignant. If I think about like the serious dramatic things that I really liked, I think Chernobyl was great. Life on Mars, great. But then I think about arguably my two favourite TV shows, being Doctor Who and Twin Peaks, are both very much comfort watches for me. Even when sometimes horrible things are happening, it's never the through line.
Yeah.
It's always normally the build-up or the result of something. And the general vibe of the show is quite chill.
Yeah.
And quite relaxed.
And it's just gives you that feeling, when you've kind of had, I don't know, a rubbish day, or you're scrolling through things and you're not really sure what to watch. You always know you can put that show on.
Yeah.
And you're like, I know it's not going to do any harm, and I'll enjoy it even if you've seen it a million times. So I think that's kind of how I feel about it. And Doctor Who, again, is a great example, because you find certain seasons more comforting than I do, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on what you're really into. But I like that about Doctor Who, because it does have something for everyone. Like,
and it's always moving on. I think that's the
yes.
important thing. Bear in mind, just since the revival, well, it depends how you want to look at this new series, whether you want to see it as a continuation of Series 14 or if you see it as the fresh start it is. But do you know what I mean? There's 26 seasons of Classic Who. There are 13 seasons of New Who. And then obviously we've had those 4 specials and one season and a Christmas special so far of New Who, Disney Who, whatever you want to call it. Do you know what I mean? That's a lot of television for it to basically be the same thing for like 60 years. And it hasn't been. The core through line about there's an alien who can change his face and he flies around in a police box and sees aliens, like that's the through line.
And it literally lends itself to being, varied. That's really it, isn't it? It's the Doctor who flies around through time and can change their face. The Doctor Who.
Yeah. But yeah, but that's the thing. That's the only truly constant, because the companions change. Even like what the TARDIS looks like changes. The Doctor's face changes, his outfit changes, his personality changes. The monster of the week is that. It's a monster of the week. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. And it's very different. That's why you get a lot of people that say, oh, Doctor Who got rubbish when David Tennant left. And then some people say, no, Doctor Who got rubbish when Peter Capaldi left. Yeah. And then some people say, no, Doctor Who's always been good. Some people say Doctor Who's always been bad. It's constantly changing, and no one's opinion is invalid. But I think that's what I like about the show, and that's what I find a little disheartening is when I see like promotional material for the new stuff coming out, and the amount of people in the comments are those people that I imagine probably stopped watching during the David Tennant, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi years. And they say, oh, it's not as good as it used to be. It's focusing too much on diversity, or it's focusing too much on this and that. And it's like, what you're complaining about, when you liked the show, people were saying the same thing.
Yeah.
People thought when it came back that, it wasn't the same as it was during the Tom Baker years or the Peter Davison years.
Yeah.
It was too woke in 2005. Then people thought, well, it got too woke during Moffat's era. And then people think it got too woke during Chibnall's era. Oh, Lady Doctor, woo. And now it's too woke now because we have whatever. The Doctor's wearing a kilt. Shocker.
Yeah, like the Doctor or his companions haven't done that in the past.
Yeah. So I think what I love about the show is the fact that it's always moving on, and Series 1 is the prime embodiment of that. It's obviously a fresh start for new people. It's how I was introduced to the show. I never watched the classic series, but it's for people who did watch the original series, when they come to this, it's the true testament of we're moving on. I know I said this in one of the previous episodes, I can't remember which one, but the Doctor is no longer a scholarly gentleman. He's no longer, a well-spoken British man who talks like this. He's now a bit rough around the edges. He's got a buzz cut. He's got a leather jacket. That's kind of explained through, obviously, the Time War and all that stuff. And clearly something's happened that we're not privy to that's kind of gritted him up a little bit. But it's not the same thing it once was. The TARDIS interior is no longer really clean, polished white. It's all very, as Matt Smith goes on to say, his grunge phase. Do you know what I mean? It's, everything about it is a bit more rough around the edges now. Even Rose as a companion is no longer.
She's more outspoken and more.
She's a bit chavvy, which probably wouldn't have happened in the classic series because they were all again very well spoken.
Yeah.
But now we have a companion from a council estate in London who's a little chavvy, but outspoken.
She's more down to earth,
someone who's willing to put the Doctor in his place. And I think that's what the show needed, and we get a lot more of that going forward when we get to like Donna and we get to Amy and Clara and and such. But I think Series 1 is the inception for what a lot of people love about the show today.
I agree.
Was established here.
So moving on to one of the main things I want to talk about, which kind of leads into what you were just talking about, is our feelings on this Doctor. This is a question I think you might find interesting. Do you think that one of the main reasons this season did so well, series did so well, is because of Christopher Eccleston's Doctor? Do you think because of the way he is, he's, again, a little bit more gritty, a bit more human, do you think people who initially would have watched Doctor Who, not like the actual true fans, but maybe had tried something before, that would have been too. Again, they were like gentlemen, and they were.
I don't know. If I'm being honest, I've not really researched this, so I don't know. But I'm willing to bet that the hardcore fans probably would have been the ones with the biggest issue.
Yeah, but that's my point. Do you think people who had just tried it once and thought this isn't for me?
Do you think they would have connected more to a more
earthly, quote unquote, doctor?
Maybe.
Someone's a bit more gritty, because it kind of drew in.
I think it's a combination of everything. I think it's a combination of how this Doctor is obviously a little less alien than the incarnations that preceded him, because most people did not watch the Paul McGann TV movie. Again, it was an American production.
Yeah.
So unless you were like a fan of Doctor Who, most people would have last remembered it as Sylvester McCoy.
Yeah.
With his question mark collars and his weird umbrella. So this version of the Doctor being a bit less alien and a bit more, I don't know, it's more easy for us to relate to, but I think combined with just the modern television format, going from serialized like 20-minute parts to, one 45-minute story, I think, again, maybe there's a bias there, because again, it's how I was introduced to the show, but making my way through Classic Who now, the new format is so much better in terms of having one story that's 45 minutes, occasionally having a two-parter, and that's it. Where the original thing, you'd be like, oh, this is a really cool idea, but it's 10 parts long and it only needed to be 4.
Yeah. And do you think, again, this is a bit more about times, I guess, but do you think attention spans changed that? Do you think people
probably? I
were
mean, it's
like,
worse now than it was when this came out.
I don't want to wait 10 weeks to have the end of this story finish? Do you think they're like, well, at least I can finish the story here, and then next week, if I miss it next week, that's fine. I don't necessarily need to watch it because Monster of the Week.
I mean, there very well may be an element of that in there. If I'm being honest, I don't think it's so much of, I want the resolution to this story already. I think it's because Classic Who had to be dragged out for however many parts, it's very slow paced. So I think if you introduced a lot of those stories, particularly the longer ones, to a modern audience, I think that they would get bored. I don't think it would be the case of, I want this story resolved already. I think it would be the case of, nothing's happening. Why am I watching this?
Yeah. But so Christopher Eccleston, what do you think?
He might be my favourite.
I know you flip-flop between this a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it normally depends on who I watch most recently. I tend to flip-flop between 9 and 12 being my favourites. Right now it probably is Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Like we say, he's a bit rough around the edges to have a more like working class Doctor. Like say his outfit with the leather jacket and the jumper, and he's wearing like boots and trousers.
He's got a buzz cut. He's kind of a bit more rough and ready.
Yeah, but that doesn't stop him being funny, from being charming, from being... I mean, you said several times throughout the series he's a bit of a flirt. So he is rough around the edges, and when he's angry, he gets angry. But that doesn't mean he lacks these traits that we also associate with the Doctor.
Plus, again, I don't know much about the old Who or original Who. But I've seen a couple of episodes with the earlier Doctors, and I think compared to how Eccleston plays it, do you mean you can't imagine them being that funny? You can't imagine them making that many jokes. If you're laughing because they've done something weird, not because they've said something kind of cheeky or...
I think it very much depends on the Doctor you're watching. Because I would say Patrick Troughton and Tom Baker in particular are very funny. Where like John Pertwee or William Hartnell, not so much. They're more of the gentlemanly, I'm going to save the day kind of figure. Yeah. Where Patrick Troughton was a lot more like... I think it wasn't so much what he said, but it was the way he delivered the lines that were funny. And then you've got Tom Baker, who is just hilarious. He's probably the most... Him and Eccleston are probably... Well, Eccleston and Capaldi are probably the most sarcastic incarnations of the Doctor. So I very much think it depends on who you're watching. But yeah, like I said, I think the fact that this Doctor is a lot more working class, a bit more rough around the edges, I don't think that takes away from the other things. Like I say, he is still funny, not just in the things he says, but in his facial expressions.
Yeah. He's very cheeky as well, which I like.
I think about even in the finale, you know, when he says like, "Oh, if you're as clever as me, it should take about 3 days. How long have we got?" And the programmer says, "Oh, about 22 minutes." And he's like pulling out the cables, and he accidentally rips the cable out of the wall. And he looks at the cable like all shocked, and then he looks back at the programmer and just does a big smile.
Yeah.
And it's little things like that. It's the moment with him and Linda with a Y. It's the moments with him and Blonde, him and Gwyneth.
Yeah.
That shows he is funny. He's charming and can strike up friendships quite easily. He has respect for some people, during people who are clever. Like Kathika in The Long Game, they don't get me wrong, it's not like she's a genius or anything, but you can tell that the Doctor does have a respect for her. Whilst when you see the way he talks to Adam or the way he talks to Mickey in the beginning, this is almost as if he's wasting his time just being in the same room as them.
And it's interesting, especially, I was going to say Adam, because obviously Adam is a genius, but I think he very much senses a person's, you could say, soul. Do you know what I mean? Because Adam, obviously extremely intelligent, but also extremely selfish.
Yes.
Doesn't think of it, the actions, the consequences that his actions have.
Yeah.
So I think the Doctor senses that pretty early on. Whereas, like you said, with Kathika, he kind of gets
it's kind of the opposite, isn't it? Because in the
Yeah.
beginning she's quite standoffish, and she comes across as selfish and shallow because she says, you know, "What the hell, I was ahead of you, why do you get promoted before me?" But we find out in the end that she's actually the one with like the heart, and she's
Yeah.
the one who, you know, saves the day in the end. So yeah, I think that's probably the way you said it then is probably the best way of putting it. He's not just a good sense of character, but you can kind of pick up on their soul and, you know, not just what they immediately put out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing with the Ninth Doctor as well is obviously, as well as those things, it's the guilt he has. Because he has moments, say, where when he's shouting at Van Statten, and he says, "You don't want to touch the stars, you just want to drag them down under tons of dirt and label them."
Yeah.
And that's clearly anger and frustration at how selfish and how out of touch Van Statten is. But most of the time, I think that the Ninth Doctor's anger or sadness comes from guilt.
Yeah, definitely.
And
There's many a time he's shouted at someone, and then you can kind of see him reflect on, you know, what he did. Again, we don't know it at this point, but obviously him deciding to end the war.
Yeah, because I think throughout Series 1, we obviously find out there was a war between the Daleks and the Time Lords. The Time Lords wiped out the Daleks, but took themselves with them. I don't think in Series 1 they actually mentioned that it was the Doctor who made that call.
No, I don't think
they do. So the whole thing with the moment and the Doctor...
Do they? Because he said, like, he had to make a decision. I think they did, because I think he says he had to make a decision, and he had a choice of either letting the whole universe die, or dooming his people.
Either way, it's that thing of a lot of the conflict, I think of like Father's Day, the conflict that he has with Rose. And on the surface, it's very easy for that to come across as he's annoyed because she didn't do as she was told. But it's that thing of, like he says, don't you think if I could go back and save my people, I would, but I can't. So seeing someone else being able to do it and somehow get away with it
makes him bitter,
really makes him bitter. But in the end, I know obviously how it plays out in the end where the Doctor gets eaten, but the Doctor does everything in his power to let her get away with it, because he's really bitter about it in the beginning, but then as it goes on he comes to terms with it and he realizes that's not how it's supposed to be.
And I guess it's that thing, he's like, well, he doesn't blame her for trying, because he's like, well, of course you would try, and I'm at least going to try and help that and the case.
It's that thing, like, you think about the end of the world when Jabe does the scan on him and finds out he's a Time Lord, and she's just talking to him about it and he starts crying. And I don't know, it's just that thing of every time we see maybe the darker sides of the character, it normally comes from this place of guilt, which I find a lot more interesting than him just being an incarnation that is angry.
I like it because, again, we have it from Doctors going on from this point, but also Doctors before, in the couple I've seen. It's very much that, like, holier than thou I am superior to you. I know better than you. I'm policing you almost.
Yeah.
Or like a teacher or superior. Whereas this doctor, he's telling you off, but it's like, I know why you've done this.
I think in the beginning he does have that mightier than thou energy in the fact that when people don't do as he says, do you know what I mean, he calls us apes.
Yeah.
He said, I've done it again, I picked another stupid ape. And, you know, he does have those moments, but I don't know how much of that is him genuinely feeling like he's better than us versus it just being like when you're angry or you're upset and you just want to hurt somebody sometimes.
And I think that's why I take it as that, because a previous or a later doctor wouldn't say stuff like that. Do you mean they would take the moral high ground? They wouldn't push you down. They wouldn't say something in the heat of the moment. They would just be like, I don't agree with the decisions you've made. You've disappointed me. Whereas like this doctor is going to pull you through the mud. Do you know what I mean? He's like, he's going to dress you down, but you can tell he's doing it out of anger.
At the same time, though, I do also feel like when he gets pally with people, you really feel like they've earned his trust.
Yeah.
You know how his attitude towards Jack upon their first meeting is initially it's kind of jealousy because Rose is all like googly-eyed over him.
Yeah.
Then when he finds out about the nanogenes and the ambulance, it's anger and look what you've done.
Yeah.
And then by the time the finale comes around, they're thick as thieves. They're pally together. When you see how he treats Mickey in the beginning, and then you see the way that their relationship develops, and you see how they get on in Boomtown, and it's like, you know, you really feel like Mickey has earned the Doctor's trust and his approval by this point.
This is an interesting question. Do you think that the Doctor is harsher on males than females? Because it seems so, because he seems more trusting
this
for
incarnation
a female.
or
this incarnation. He seems to trust females a lot quicker than he trusts males.
I hadn't thought about it, but you might have a point, because
all the ones he's really suspicious about,
like say even when we talk about like Kathaka and Suki in the long game, and it's like they came across quite selfish in the beginning. Well, Kathaka more so.
Yeah.
But yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you mean like Van Statten he didn't like, but Van Statten's
he didn't have anything against Diana Goddard.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
And
even Blonde, he seemed quite forgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas her brother's not so much.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, and because just that statement makes it sound like the Doctor's a bit sexist, but
maybe.
But yeah, now you say that, the evidence does all kind of point to that.
Yeah. Again, this obviously, you know, he warms up to.
He likes Linda with a Y like immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, he likes Jay pretty much immediately. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. I don't like how that makes me feel. But yeah, no, that's a good point.
Do you think that's jealousy to some extent?
I think the Doctor's always had a soft spot for young women in particular, because they always tend to be the companions. Like any male companions the Doctor has, it normally seems to be because they tacked on to one of his female companions.
Aww.
But it's true though, because I think about like, I haven't seen all of Classic Who yet, but from my understanding, it's like obviously the first companions being Ian and Barbara were kind of kidnapped. It's like Stephen wandered into the TARDIS. Jamie, I can't remember how Jamie joined the TARDIS actually, but a lot of them, it's normally like, hey young girl, do you want to come travelling with me? And then a bloke normally just comes along. I
mean, literally, Rose brings Jack, Rose brings Adam, Rose brings Mickey.
Yeah. Amy brings Rory.
Clara brings, well, does she bring Danny Pink? Danny Pink kind of, not a companion, but
he's not a companion, but he does enter the TARDIS a couple times.
The only person who isn't is Nardal.
Yeah, because that's the thing, even when you think about like...
But you could argue that technically...
Even like
River Song brought Nardal.
Yeah. But even like Ryan and Graham, you can argue are just kind of... Graham's there because he's Ryan's granddad, and Ryan's there because he's friends with Yaz.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There isn't... Yeah, I don't know. The Doctor has a preference. Don't know why.
That's fair enough.
But yeah.
When are we going to get just two lads, just two guys having a nice little jolly, going to, like, I don't know, go get some fish and chips
Do you want
on a
the
random
15th
planet?
Doctor and Rogue? Just kind of...
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah.
But again, what I think I like, just going back to the Ninth Doctor a sec, I think I love his relationship with his companion. And now I know you can say, well, this kind of applies to every Doctor. I like 11 and Amy. I like 12 and Bill. Do you know what I mean? Tennant and Martha, Tennant and Donna, or Tennant and Rose. But there's something, I don't know, very specific about this pairing. I don't know whether it's the in-universe thing of the Doctor coming out of the Time War, feeling like everything's against him, and she brings that humanity out of him, or whether it's, I don't know, maybe it's just a more subtle psychological pairing of having a young girl with an older guy. Obviously, I know he's not Capaldi age, but he's, I don't know. Because you get the impression, don't you, like, Capaldi with Clara, say Clara's a bit more mature than Rose. So I don't know. But I think these two bring the best out of each other, where the thing I have with 12 and Clara is I think they bring the worst out of each other. And now that's not to say that that's a bad thing, like from a storytelling perspective, I find that really interesting. But those two are kind of objectively bad for each other. They're a toxic couple, where Rose and the Ninth Doctor, I think, are ultimately good for each other.
Yeah, I can kind of see that a little bit.
I think he expands her horizons, like she says in the finale. He taught her to, stand up for what she believes in and to fight for the little people and to, don't just be content with things how they are. And she got him to focus on the here and now. You don't always have to look at the big picture. You can, and Donna does that again a little later, but, you also can focus on the smaller people. And, she kind of teases him to be a bit more open about the things that he holds back or the things he holds himself accountable for.
Yeah.
So I just love this pair's relationship, and as much as I like David Tennant, I think he's a good actor and I think he's a good Doctor. I don't like the 10th Doctor and Rose's dynamic as much as I do the 9th Doctor and Rose.
Do you think the difference is because Rose and Tennant, it's very much like this is a love story.
Yeah, it's a bit more obvious that it's a romantic subplot, where I feel like this is more ambiguous, because you can make the argument that this is also romantic, but it's kind of like the 12 Clara thing again. Some people see that as a romantic pairing, some people see it as platonic, some people see it as like they're best friends, some people see it as she could be his daughter. Do you know what I mean? It's I think this is more like that, where it's a bit ambiguous and you can interpret it how you like.
I think with those two, and people may disagree, but I feel like there is a stronger love with Rose and Eccleston and Clara and Capaldi than there is with Rose and Tennant. I feel like there's not much love there. It's just kind of like wanting.
Passion,
yeah. But there's not actually like a deep,
the Doctor's fit
caring,
now.
Yeah, it's like not like a deep, caring love to, care for that person. I think, and I feel like I could be wrong, but Tennant is kind of too shallow for that. Like, Tennant's Doctor.
I agree, because that's what I mean. I think where I said these two, 9 and Rose, are ultimately good for each other and they make each other better people. I don't know if I agree with 10 and Rose.
Yeah,
because I think 10 and Rose is like it's a kind of a similar thing to Clara and 12 in the sense of she tries to be more like the Doctor episode by episode. And I think 9 would have put her in her place and told her not to do that.
Yeah.
Where 10 kind of enjoys it because he's a bit vain and he's a bit arrogant. So Rose's whole thing of like, oh, this is the day that I die, and everything that happened to Rose, she essentially led to her own demise, by trying to be more like him.
Which is the same kind of thing that happened with Clara.
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
But yeah, I like the dynamic of, Eccleston's not afraid to put it down. And like, not put it down in like,
Yeah, he's not trying to make her feel bad about herself, but he...
Make her reflect on her actions, I guess.
Yeah.
Or what she wants to do, not necessarily what she has done, but it's like, have you thought about the bigger picture of this? Have you thought about what this could do?
Yeah.
And I do like that. But he doesn't do it in a condescending way. It's he tells it very bluntly.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm doing this for this reason. You need to stop.
Yeah.
But I like that.
Yeah.
What about the rest of the companions?
So who we got? Are you counting like Jackie and Mickey?
Sure. I don't usually count them as companions, but we'll say
Right,
Jackie,
we'll say,
Mickey, and
we've,
Jack.
we've kind of talked about Rose already, I think. Obviously, her relationship with the Doctor and how she's a bit different in terms of her, like, her class and, that kind of thing. Her age is kind of a thing as well, obviously being 19. Mickey, I like Mickey.
I really like Mickey.
In terms of, obviously, I like him more as a person further on because he's more competent and more mature. But I like his arc of being, when you think about in Rose, when he's like holding onto Rose's legs, he's like, no, don't go, he's a thing, he's an alien. And then you think about him at the end of this series, or you think of him at the end of series 2, and he's come so far.
But I think what I like about it is, you could say, I don't think he's changed that much of a person. But
No,
in the sense of, I think he's become more independent, and that has done so much good for himself. He's become more confident in himself.
His morals are the same, but he's more confident in himself. He does, because you get the impression in the beginning that he identifies purely as Rose's boyfriend.
Yeah.
And as he goes on, he gets more confident in his own abilities, and he chooses to not to get too far ahead, but obviously in the next series he chooses to stay behind somewhere else to help out, because he feels that there's not really much for him in his original place anymore. So and what I like about it is this transition. It's not like something that happens over the span of 4 episodes. It happens over the span of 4 seasons, and every episode feels like a natural development of this character. Nothing happens makes me think, oh, that was quick. But in the sense of, like, how we say, like, the 12th Doctor is like a different person in every series, But I think the transition from series 8 Capaldi to series 9 Capaldi is quite quick. Like, if you watch Dark Water, Death in Heaven, then you watch Last Christmas, and then you watch The Magician's Apprentice. The Magician's Apprentice, he feels very different. He feels way more, the cool rock star, playing guitar, riding a tank thing. I cannot imagine Series 8 Capaldi doing that, and I don't know where that came from, and you can assume it's something that happened off screen. But everything that contributed towards Mickey's development happens on screen, and it happens very naturally.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that also applies to Jackie as well.
Again, she's
a bit almost cougar-esque in the beginning, like during Rose, and then she plays the role of, like, very concerned mother, obviously, during the Slitheen 2-parter. And she hates the Doctor, but she slowly comes around, and I don't know, I like
the impact the Doctor has on her and Rose's relationship as well. The fact that you could, other than Father's Day, where, Jackie's telling Rose about her dad and what happened when she was younger, you can't imagine that they talk about serious stuff that often. Do you know what I mean? I can imagine that their relationship's very much, oh, see you later, Mum, oh, yeah, whatever, They don't sit down and have a conversation, and I like the fact that even though in most of the times it's in bad circumstances, the Doctor forces that conversation, and therefore it makes it a little bit more natural. Like, you can't imagine episode 1 Jackie saying to Rose, I'm so thankful that the Doctor's, returned you to me, and, I care for you, and you're the most important thing to me, and I just want you safe.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You can't imagine that, because she, again, maybe it's because we don't know the character well enough. Maybe it's because the characters aren't in that situation yet, but...
Yeah, no, I agree, yeah. And I just think... the fact that everyone develops through each other is the main takeaway from this. And again, that applies to Jack as well. The only one that doesn't really develop is Adam. Hence why he's really given the boot. Because he doesn't see the bigger picture, and he makes it all about what he can achieve for himself in his present life. So, that's kind of where I'm at with that. The one thing I wanted to ask you, though, about the 9th Doctor is, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing that we only had one series with him?
That's a good question.
Because there's a part of me that loves him and would love to have more of him, but I can't help but wonder if that would taint it. Not just because, you know, if he came back, it might not be as good as the original, but also I think, sorry, I think part of why I love this incarnation of the Doctor so much is how selfless he is for how short of a life he had.
Yeah.
I find it very heartwarming and heartbreaking that he lived a very brief existence in this incarnation.
Yeah.
But he accomplished so much growth and so much development in that life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I love about it, where if we had 3 series with him, it could be great. I'd love to have more Eccleston, but yeah, maybe it would take away from that
I guess
more subtle thing.
I think I don't know how much more growth that Eccleston's Doctor could have had without making him completely different.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether if you'd made him again grow so much that he wouldn't have acted the same, he wouldn't behave the same, and that's kind of why I like him.
Yeah, I guess you could argue, even though it would be nice to have more with him because I like the Ninth Doctor and I like Christopher Eccleston a lot, his story was kind of done.
To keep him going, you'd have to change him.
Yeah.
Which they did into Tennant.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would definitely like, I know it's not going to happen, but I would like another Doctor
I guess if you try to imagine Series 2, imagine the episodes in Series 2, but with the Ninth Doctor instead of the 10th Doctor.
It wouldn't be.
No.
It would have been right.
I don't know how I'd feel about Christopher Eccleston in, like, I don't know, in Love and Monsters or in, I don't know, the Parallel Earth kind of Cybermen 2-parter. I don't know.
But yeah, I definitely, if there was an option to, you know, do what they did with Tennant and bring him back for an episode or 2 or more, I'd love that. But I don't think we should have had more.
If Christopher Eccleston somehow showed up, and I know it's never going to happen, he's made that perfectly clear, but if he showed up in the 70th special or something, that would be the one thing that would get me the most excited.
I know.
I could easily go the rest of my life without ever seeing David Tennant in the role again. I love David Tennant. That's not a slight towards him, but we've had enough of him.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Matt Smith come back or Peter Capaldi come back, but if Christopher Eccleston came back, I can't think of anything else that would happen in the show that would get me more excited than that.
I think that a lot of people would feel that way, actually. I might be wrong, but I think I can imagine a lot more hype for Eccleston coming back.
I do wonder how much of that is because he's made it very clear that he will not come back.
But I don't think the general public kind of know that. No, but I think people would be surprised because again, his Doctor was very different. I think they'd be like, oh, you know, I think it would have high viewing figures. Basically, I think people would want to at least see one more episode because again, with Tennant, when he came back for season 1, is it?
No, it's the specials, wasn't it?
All the
60th anniversary specials.
Yeah. People wanted to see him in that role, definitely, but we'd already had him return once.
Yeah, during the 50th.
During the 50th. So, do you mean I can imagine? And people were excited then, and he hadn't been gone that long.
No.
But I can imagine now, and Eccleston's gone on to do a lot more roles. And I'm sure his acting, even though it was brilliant in the series 1, I can imagine it would have grown even more so since that point, and so much time would have passed. I think a lot of people would probably want to watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sad it would never happen. Well, never say never. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, I do recommend anyone, if you like Series 1 and you like the Ninth Doctor, by all means, check out the Big Finish stuff, because the stuff I've listened to has all been really good. And he very easily slips back into the role. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Shall we do a quiz?
Okay. Yes.
So, what I've done, I've got 2 questions per story. So,
okay. Did you say there were multiple rounds for this?
For this special, I've only done 1 round. I've got 20 questions.
20 questions, 2 per story.
2 per story,
okay.
Yeah. Again, some of these are going to be hard, but then your knowledge, maybe not so much. So we'll see.
We'll have a look.
So we'll start off with the questions from Rose.
Okay.
What is the name of the shop that Rose works in?
I did know this.
Again, I've kind of juggled them. Some are a lot easier than others.
I did know this.
This is the one that I
Henrik's.
Yes, it is. See,
Yes.
I knew. Again, this is the one I mistook Rose from stealing from.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's it.
I
knew it began with an H. I was thinking Harrods, and I was like, that's a real shop.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, where is it? Yeah, it's Henrik's.
Henrik's, correct.
Yes.
Okay, second question for Rose. What colour is Mickey's car when he takes Rose to Clive's house?
Oh, is it yellow?
Yes. I'll give you an extra point if you could tell me what car it is as well.
I'm tempted to say he doesn't have the Mini. He's got the Mini in Parting of the Ways. Is it a Beetle?
It is a Beetle, yes.
Yeah, it's a Volkswagen Beetle.
Again, I was watching, I've kind of, to get these questions, I've watched through the episodes to kind of get them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it surprised me that it wasn't a Mini.
Yeah.
And he upgraded quite a bit. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, saying that though, that was like what? Probably like a 2-year span, maybe? Year and a half?
Well, it was a year and 6 months, wasn't it?
Yeah, so a year and a half.
18 months.
Good on you, Mickey. Yeah. Okay, so end of the world question.
Yeah.
What is the name of the year that the Doctor and Rose land in?
Oh, God.
This is a hard one.
Oh, these are annoying because these are ones I did know.
I know.
But it's just whether or not I've retained it.
This is why I've put them in, because I'm like, I know he knows this, and I know he's said it to me before.
I'm assuming you want you want the alternative one. I'm assuming you don't want the year 5 billion.
No.
You want it's like 5 point something / apple / something, isn't it?
Yes,
you want that one.
I do, and it's very close, yeah.
Is it just 5 points? It's not like 500 or anything. I'm pretty sure it's just 5 point delta. No. 5 point. I just remember the apple.
I know you do.
Is it apple / 26? Is that
it is? Yes. You're very freaking close.
So I'm just missing that one. 5 point something / apple / 26.
Yes.
Oh God.
If you're sitting at home doing this, do the quiz as well and let us know how you get on.
Quiz along. Comment below how many points you got.
Yeah.
No cheating.
No cheating.
No cheating.
Go on. You know
I know.
this.
The annoying thing is I'm thinking, but I don't want to just sit there in silence thinking. I'm like, how do you make thinking entertaining in a podcast?
Yeah.
5 point something. And it's not Delta. No, because I had Delta in my head, but I think that was Cassandra's name. She's like Cassandra O'Brien .Delta .17 or something like that.
I have no idea. I'm going to give you one option. Well, no, I'm going to give you one final guess.
Okay.
And then
we'll move on. Okay.
And then we'll move on.
I'm just trying to think of what that middle bit is. 5 point. Is it a number or is it a word?
It's a number.
It's a number.
That's what, 1 in 10.
5.6.
Oh, it's 5.5.
Ah, no. So it's 5.5 / apple / 26.
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of want to give you half a point.
That's okay. I can take it like a man. I'll take 0 points. It's fine.
I'm very impressed though for you to remember the other bits.
Okay.
Okay. So when Rose and Cassandra are talking about all the operations Cassandra has had,
yes,
Rose says to Cassandra she'd rather die than be what like Cassandra.
Is that when she just says bitchy trampoline?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were going to have a question about her having her blood bleached.
No, I was going to choose how many operations she had.
Ooh.
I know this, again, because I've noted this. And I hate the fact that I know this now.
Oh, I don't know.
The answer is 708 to be 709.
Yeah.
As she's getting
that's
her blood
the blood
bleach.
bleach, yeah.
Okay.
That's a lot, isn't it?
That's a lot.
God.
Yeah, she goes,
Okay.
I'd rather die than be like you, a bitchy trampoline.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the Unquiet Dead. How much does Gwyneth get paid a year?
£8.
Yes, she does. I put £8.
She would have been happy with 6.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
God, I remembered that.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, God.
This one, you have two ways of working it.
Right.
So you either know the answer or you can work it out from the year they land in.
Okay.
What year does the Doctor says Charles Dickens dies?
Oh. Charles Dickens dies in 1870.
Correct, yes.
Yes.
So you can work it out. Obviously, they land in 1869, and he
yeah.
says he
He
dies next year.
Yeah.
So yes, correct. See, do you mean a lot of people I don't think would get these questions, but you're a bit
Unless
old
you
nerd.
just happen to know when Charles Dickens died.
And again, unless you just happen to know, which works well either way. Okay, so this one I think is going to be pretty hard, but I have told you this, so if you remember.
Okay.
Okay, who or what is the name of the news reporter who is waiting outside Downing Street as all of the Slitheen family arrive?
Oh, it is Andrew Marr.
Yes, correct.
Yes. Because I remember thinking Johnny Marr and thinking, no, he's a musician.
Again, this question is easy and I know you'll know it.
Yeah.
What is the password for the Navy?
Buffalo.
With...
2 F's, 1 L.
Yes, correct. You had to think about that then.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of these questions I think are quite easy, but next time, I'm kind of getting a feeler. Next series special, I'm going to ramp it up and they're going to be harder.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough.
Okay, so we move on to Dalek.
Yeah.
In the museum at the start, the Dalek... try again. In the museum at the start of Dalek, some exhibitions are named. Chunks of meteorite, moon dust.
Yes.
Milometer from
the
Roswell
Roswell,
spaceship.
yeah.
The Cyberman head. But what is missing
That you did mention.
that I didn't mention?
Slitheen arm.
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew you would know that. It's too easy.
I thought you were going to get me to guess what landed from the Roswell space crash.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. I was considering putting that in, but I was like, oh, is that too hard?
Nah.
Next time, I shall. Okay, next question. What name does Van Staten call the Dalek before he knows what it's called?
He calls it a Metaltron.
He does.
He does.
Stupid name.
He's watched Transformers.
Yes. Okay, right, move on to the long game. In the long game, the face of Bo is pregnant with a baby. What's the baby's name?
Do they mention that?
They do, yes.
They mention the baby's name?
They mention the baby's name.
Oh my God. Oh God. I don't know.
You might know this.
I don't have anything. I'm pulling nothing.
Nothing. It's mentioned. They say the name and they put it on the screen of the channel.
Do they?
Yeah, pregnant with a baby girl, I believe they said.
You're going to have to give that one to me. I have nothing.
Bomina. Yeah.
Okay.
The face of Bo is pregnant with a baby Bomina. Bomina, thank you.
Wow, okay.
I thought you might have got that one.
No.
I know it's quite niche, but
I think I always get distracted. As soon as I say face of Bo's pregnant, I zone anything else afterwards
Yeah.
out.
Okay, an easy one for you. What's the name of the burger sold from the wagon?
Oh, that's a Kronk burger.
That's a Kronk burger. Okay, right, we move on to Father's Day.
Yes.
What is repeated when people use their phones?
Watson, come here. I need you.
Yes, correct.
As spoken by Alexander Graham Bell.
Again, another thing. If you know history, you're all right then. Okay, and when Rose and the Doctor go back to Pete's and Jackie's flat for the first time, what job ventures do Rose say her father is into? She picks up 2.
Oh, God. So what professions? Is that the question?
Yeah, so she goes, look. She's like, this.
Like sports drinks? Or health drinks, something like that?
Health drinks.
Yeah.
And
Is it like tech? Is it like a, I don't know, DVD player or something like that?
no, I think Jackie does mention that later on.
Oh yeah, she says where I'm from. Jackie doesn't know how to record something on the.
Yeah. You're gonna kick yourself when you know this.
I know I am. Health drinks and. Oh god, that's so annoying.
It's quite forward thinking, this, what he's chosen to pick.
For the 80s?
For the 80s, quite forward.
Oh, is it like Betamax?
No.
No?
I'm going to give you one more guess.
Forward thinking for the 80s?
Yeah. Used nowadays.
Used nowadays?
Yeah. Quite big nowadays. Hence
Ozempic.
I won't take that as a guess, but still. Yeah.
Mobile phones?
No.
No, what is it?
Solar panels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Health drinks or tonics and solar panels.
It's a good question.
Okay, we'll move on to the Empty Child and Dr. Dances.
Yeah.
What fruit grows in the Grove of Velengard?
Oh, bananas.
Yes.
Bananas are good.
And what two alcoholic drinks are drunk by Captain Jack in the two-parters?
What two alcoholic drinks? Mm-hmm. On his ship, he offers Rose champagne.
Yes.
And on his ship, he has a, what do you call it? A martini with too much vermouth.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
Yes.
Champagne and martini. I think it's a dirty martini because he's got an olive in it.
Ew.
And I'm assuming that's because I know you don't. I know dirty martini is with some juice in it, but
Some juice.
some juice.
Yeah.
But yeah, correct. Okay. In Boomtown, what is the name of the reporter that speaks to Blonde in the toilets?
That's Kathy Salts,
It is, yeah.
as we infamously laughed about.
Yes. And what age did Blonde make her first kill?
13.
Yes, correct.
Oh, man. It's funny with some of these questions, because some of them I just know the answer immediately, and some of them I'm like, oh my good God.
Okay, this one, again, unsure about these, but we're on to the final story of Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways.
Yeah.
What channel was the Doctor's Big Brother on?
40,000.
No.
No?
44,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah, damn it. Oh,
Close.
God damn it.
And there is an answer for this,
Yeah.
but if you don't answer it the way I want,
Okay. Yeah.
what does the new takeaway that Mickey and Jackie talking about sell?
Pizza. Pizza.
Yes!
Okay, that's what you wanted. Okay.
I literally wrote pizza. So yeah, you did quite well. You got 16 out of 20. That's pretty good.
It's unacceptable.
So
I wanted better than that.
Well, maybe you can do better next time, but I will be ramping them up.
That's okay. Yeah.
Again, I hate the fact that now I know these facts.
Will you retain them?
This is a good question. I don't know. Some of them I will.
What channel is the Doctor on?
I know. I mean, it's literally in my hands, but I know it's 44,000. I know the baby is called Bomina.
Bomina.
I also know the name of the year they go to. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I hate this now.
Yeah. No, I very much enjoyed that.
Good. I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
And yeah, let us know how you did, whether you're keeping score or not. If you think
Put
I
your
should
score
ramp it
down
up
below.
next time, let us know. But
Yeah.
so next we'll be moving on to, well, our rankings, really.
So how are we going to do this? Are we going to go through, like, my list, like, 13 through 1 and then you? Or are we just going to make our way through the episodes in, like, chronological order and just say where we rank them? How are we going to do this?
Well, should we kind of put... Well, what I'll do, on my list, how many? There's 13 episodes, isn't there?
Yes.
So, on my list, I've put my top 4. Actually, I'll do my top 5. And then we'll go middle 3. And then
Okay.
worst 5.
Okay. It's a bit more digestible that way.
Yeah.
Okay. So, top 5, middle 3, bottom 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to go first?
Are we starting from the bottom, or
We'll start our best ones.
our favourites?
Our favourites, yeah.
Okay, so am I just naming the episodes?
Yeah,
Is
you
that
name
what
your
we're doing this?
favourite 5.
Okay, so my top 5 in order. Number 1, I have The Parting of the Ways. Number 2, I have Father's Day. Number 3, I have The Doctor Dances. Number 4 is Dalek. And number 5 is The Empty Child.
This is very interesting. So, ours are very similar,
Oh, yeah.
except one.
Okay.
So, my favourite is Unquiet Dead. My second favourite is Father's Day, which is yours.
Yes.
My third favourite is Empty Child.
Okay.
My fourth favourite is The Doctor Dances. And then my fifth is Dalek.
Hey.
So we're generally pretty much the same in the top 5, bar you have The Parting of the Ways and I have The Unquiet Dead.
Yeah.
Which I think kind of very much shows what we
Yeah.
look for. I think other than our first choices, the 4 underneath it are pretty much known for being the best of the
Yes.
season.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think that's quite interesting, actually. Go on then, what's your mid 3?
So my middle 3 are Bad Wolf,
Yeah.
The Unquiet Dead, and Boomtown.
Okay. So my middle 3 are Boomtown, Parting of the Ways, and World War 3.
Interesting.
Again, it's a couple of pretty close ones there.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know. I feel like you're not going to be happy about my worst.
I think I know what your worst is.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Shall
Okay.
we see?
So we go into the bottom 5.
Yes.
So bottom 5, World War 3,
Yeah.
Rose, The End of the World, Aliens of London, and The Long Game.
Okay. So my worst is it goes End of the World, Bad Wolf,
Oh, okay.
Aliens of London,
Yeah.
The Long Game, and my least favourite is Rose.
Oh, that does surprise me. Okay. I thought you would have Bad Wolf at the bottom.
I was considering it.
Yeah.
I really was, but I think in many ways we've had worse.
Yes.
Being, in my case, Aliens of London, The Long Game, and Rose.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because again, Rose is. I think I mentioned this when we covered Rose, but I think what I find interesting is I don't hold the episode in super high regard because I always think about the monster of the week. I remember it as the Auton episode, and it's
Yeah.
not. It's very Do you know what I mean? But when I think about everything to do with the Doctor and not to do with the Auton subplot, it's actually quite compelling. I think the whole thing with like Clive and the mystery of the Doctor to be quite interesting.
I do find it interesting, but I think it's not touched upon enough.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that for me,
It's
I
not.
don't know.
Yeah.
It feels like there was a lot to put in it, and it feels very rushed. To be fair, do you mean they're literally starting up a season? So
Do you think that series 1, as the beginning of this entire revival, do you think that the first episode should have been a 2-parter?
yes, but then it's difficult because I would have wanted a 2-parter. I don't think it should have been
Yeah.
because I don't think people would have.
It's hard to get viewer retention for like
Yeah.
2 weeks back to back. Yeah.
I mean, if you can give them a full story in one, they can make their mind up about it.
Yeah, that's true.
So they can go, okay, I like that or I didn't. But
Yeah.
if you have to wait a week for a conclusion, I think a lot of people would have signed out faster.
Yeah, that's fair.
Especially because like I said, obviously we were very young. I didn't see it as a child.
Yeah.
But I said quite harshly that I probably wouldn't have.
I mean, I understand. I think a lot of people probably would have come to the same conclusion.
Yeah, I wouldn't have carried on watching it if I'd seen Rose.
Yeah.
I would have said, this just isn't for me, which obviously is not the case. Doctor Who is for me.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know. but I understand why. Do you mean again, like we said before? I think they were trying to find the tone.
Yeah, 100%.
There was so much trial in that first season, so I respect that. Should we talk about our favourites and kind of say why?
Yeah, well, our number ones.
Yeah, so you go first, because yours is Parting of the Ways, isn't it?
Yes.
Why is it your favourite?
Well, again, I don't want to repeat myself too much because I feel like everything I said in our previous episode where we covered the finale. But I think Parting of the Ways it's probably the episode of the show I've seen the most. So there is a heavy element of nostalgia in there for sure. Mm-hmm. But also, I think this is one of those stories that embodies everything I like about the show.
Yeah.
It's kind of timey-wimey, but not overly complicated. The villains feel like they're naturally included into the story. There is, they pose a significant threat. They feel like intimidating. They don't feel contrived being there. I think everything we know about the Doctor in terms of his grief and guilt, his humour, his care and his love, everything we know about this man is on display in this episode.
Yeah.
I think we get the payoff to Jackie and Mickey's relationship with Rose.
Yeah.
The editing, I think, is great. I think it's very fast-paced, but not jarring. Just everything you could want. And the Ninth Doctor's final moments before he regenerates into 10, I think, are perfect.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think it's probably one of my favourite regenerations.
Yeah, and considering he didn't have his orchestra yet, I think Murray Gold does a great job with some of his best music in Series 1 being in this last episode as well.
I agree with that, definitely. Again, we've kind of gone over. It's not as high for me, like I said in the last episode, mainly because I think more could have been done for the Daleks. Mm-hmm. But I think that's mainly it.
What position did you put Parting of the Ways in? 1,
2, 3, 4, 5. 7th.
Ooh, I was just curious to see what my number one was for you, because your number one was the Unquiet Dead,
and yours is roughly around there, isn't
Mine's
it?
Unquiet Dead. I have at 8.
That's quite harsh. But yeah, it's interesting though that we've kind of put the same episodes, but then again, like I said, what we take from the season has affected our favourites.
Yeah.
Like I said, I love The Unquiet Dead because it's just a me episode. I love the fact that we go back in time. The historicals are my favourite. I love the fact that we meet a historical figure as well. I love it when Doctor Who does that. I like how it sets things up for the Rift and how we see more of Rose. We see her being a bit more caring in this.
Yeah, because her reaction, I mean, she's mostly just in awe during Rose. And during the End of the World, she's angry more often than not.
No.
She's a bit like, she's uncomfortable or kind of arguing with the Doctor. This is the first time we actually see them seemingly have fun together.
And she calls Cassandra a bitchy trampoline. Do you mean she's unhappy that the Doctor's taken her there?
Yes.
Whereas this, she genuinely... Do you mean she gets to dress up?
Yeah.
She gets to go to a show. She's excited. I love that. I love it's also Christmassy feeling, and
I think the side characters are really compelling in The Unquiet Dead as well.
I agree.
I think as kind of slimy as he's meant to be, I quite like Mr. Sneed.
I think exactly what those characters are, and you know how they would react.
Yes.
And I like the fact that it's not... It feels, again, cozy. It feels very cozy.
Yeah.
I could watch that episode over and over again. I love the ending that Gwyneth decides to sacrifice herself. I love that part when the Doctor, feels her pulse and knows she's gone.
Yeah, all
it's so
non-verbally. Yeah.
So heart-wrenching, but the acting is so brilliant because his face says it all. You don't need him to go, "Oh, you're dead." Do you know what I mean?
Which almost certainly would have happened during like Jodie's era.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love it. I think it's everything I love about Doctor Who is done really well in this episode.
That's interesting because, like I say, that's pretty much exactly what I said for my episode. So, yeah. But no, I agree. Like I say, even though I have The Unquiet Dead at like number 8 of 13, which makes it sound low, Series 1 I just enjoy so much. Like I say, when we covered this episode, I said to you, I think this is a really good and a really strong, underrated episode. So the fact that I have this technically in the bottom half of my list
shows how good it is, yeah.
Yeah. I like it a lot, particularly that final moment where Rose says, you know, he's going to think of all the stories he's going to go off and write, and the Doctor says, no, unfortunately he's going to pass away next year.
Yeah.
But we made the rest of his life more full.
Yeah, and happy.
And that moment where the TARDIS disappears and he just laughs and he walks away. And I don't know, I just love that moment too.
One question I do have, which I find with my list, is there any kind of vibe or anything that links the bottom 5 of yours?
Bear with me. Let me just have another look. So my bottom 5: World War III, Rose, The End of the World, Aliens of London, and The Long Game. So looking at my bottom 5, right, I would say Aliens of London and The Long Game are the only 2 that I would say aren't good.
Ooh.
Now, I don't think they're bad, because I say Long Game I have at the bottom, and even then, I think it's a middling episode of Doctor Who. I think it's very whatever. So it's kind of hard for me to say what links them, because reading the bottom of my list and seeing World War III surprises me, because I'm like, I actually kind of like World War III.
Yeah.
Aliens of London has a lot more of the elements of that story I don't like, in terms of like the farting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Where the stuff I do like in that story comes in World War III.
Because our bottom are very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, I have in the bottom, I have Aliens of London, Long Game, and Rose in mine.
Or it's funny because with the exception of The Unquiet Dead, the first like 4 episodes are in our bottom.
But yeah, I think it's very, for me, what kind of, again, my ones are End of the World, Bad Wolf, Aliens of London, The Long Game, and Rose. I think mine is they're very tonally similar. They're very, like, tongue-in-cheek, a bit silly, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, again, End of the World, not so much.
Do you know what? I would agree with that. I would agree that Aliens of London, End of the World, and Rose are very tonally inconsistent, and maybe when they're trying to be funny, they lean a bit too silly.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with The Long Game. I don't think The Long Game is tonally inconsistent. It's just the most dull episode of the series. It has the least interesting things going on for me.
I feel like that's Rose for me, though. But again, I've put Rose below that.
Yeah.
I feel like
I feel like the mystery and intrigue built towards who is the Doctor, you know, when Rose goes on the website, have you seen this man? That stuff is a lot more interesting than anything that happens in The Long Game. So that's where I'm at with that.
I can agree with that, yeah. I think that is the case for me as well.
And again, I don't even hate The Long Game, do you know what I mean? It's at the bottom of my list, but it has interesting ideas. The whole thing of turning the brain into a computer and having to install the chip and all that stuff. The editor and the Jagrafess, like, controlling the news, I find interesting. It's kind of popularising fake news before that was even, like, a term.
Yeah. I don't know about you. I think that's the whole point, and that it's done effectively if that is the point. I just don't like Adam.
Yeah,
I don't like him nor care about him.
It is the point. Cause, do you remember, I can't remember if you... I don't know if you remember, but one of the working titles for The Long Game was The Companion Who Never Was.
Yeah. So...
yeah, I think Adam's purpose was very much meant to highlight why Rose is so good for the Doctor.
Yeah.
Because she's everything that he isn't, basically.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think that's, again, like I said, the whole point, the fact that when he gets the work done, you're just sitting there rolling your eyes. You're like,
why would you do this?
Why would you do this? Yeah. And I know, again, that's the purpose, but I don't know. I just think... it just doesn't just sit there for me. But I think, for me, Rose is too boring. And I know that's harsh, but it is.
No, I understand.
And then the bits it isn't boring. Again, I love the whole thing with Clive. I'm gutted that we lost him sooner.
Yeah.
I wish we could have had more later on. I think it's really, again, it's really interesting because obviously at this point, the Doctor hasn't been on Earth much, as far as I'm aware. Like, he's been there, but he hasn't had, like, a global impact as much. Whereas, like,
Classic, who you mean?
I don't know, maybe
he
not.
has, yeah.
Well, he's done, like...
Spent a lot of time on Earth.
Well, yeah, but he hasn't, as far as I'm aware, not done stuff like, pulled the Earth back into its spot.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Where the whole Earth would know about this, do you know what I mean? I feel like then he was doing stuff, but it was...
Small scale.
Typical unit kind of thing of like, we'll hide it.
Yes.
Nobody needs to know.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting that you actually have someone who's like picked up on these things and has found him. Whereas like in the later seasons, you couldn't do that because the Doctor's so well known by everybody. It's like, of course they would know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really interesting.
I agree.
But I don't know. I think the rest of it, especially the plastic Mickey and the burping bin, I can't.
I'm okay with the burping bin. Like, yeah, it's silly,
and the
but
pizza.
God. I like that. I think I like him being shiny. I like his like rubbish hairline. I don't mind the burping bin. I like the pizza. The one thing I don't like is the very jarring editing with the babe, honey, sugar, babe.
Like that bit.
That's too much.
Ugh. It's like toe curling. Like, oh,
yeah,
God, no.
That is not right.
Again, what was the episode that we watched of Old Who? Is it with Pertwee? With the old...
With the Autons?
Yeah.
Spearhead from Space.
Like... I know, again...
The Autons are a lot more effective in that story than they are in Rose,
so
aren't they?
more effective.
Yeah.
And the ones that are supposed to look like humans... Look like humans, but they're like uncanny valley. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, there's just something not quite right. Whereas like with Mickey, you're like, what is that?
Yeah, the Autons that look like people in Spearhead from Space aren't shiny and glossy because they are just actors, but they're just actors delivering lines in a very stilted, unnatural way.
They're kind of a little glossy. It looks like they've got like the Edward Cullen effect.
Or sparkly.
They're a little bit sparkly, yeah. And a bit very smooth. So I don't know, but I think they're a lot more effective in that.
Yeah, no, I agree. The only thing I wanted to bring up, just talking about my favourite with Parting of the Ways, and I know I've kind of hinted at this throughout all of this series, but how I've said that every episode in Series 1 I think is vital towards that finale. So I did like compile just a little list of just everything that came to my head off the top of my head.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, like Rose as an episode introduces obviously the characters and the TARDIS as a concept, so that's kind of maybe the loosest one.
Yeah.
The End of the World obviously introduces the Time War and the Time Lords as a concept. The Doctor's the last of his kind, that kind of thing. The Unquiet Dead obviously sets up the Rift. Aliens of London introduces obviously the Slovene, which will come back later, as well as developing Mickey and Jackie's relationship with Rose, which is going to come into play later. Dalek obviously introduces the Daleks. The Long Game introduces Satellite 5, which will come back later. Father's Day not only sets up the paradoxes, so when Rose says, hey, can't we just go back and warn them? And the Doctor says, no, as soon as I cross my own timeline, I become part of events. It obviously sets that up, but it also sets up the argument that Rose has to Jackie in the finale about having met her dad. Obviously, the Empty Child brings Jack into the fold. And Boomtown introduces not just the heart of the TARDIS, but also the extrapolator that they go on to turn into a shield. Yeah. So with all that in mind, you can't really skip an episode of Series 1. That's my argument as for why Series 1 is so tight and so... Even the middling episodes set something up which will pay off in the end.
I think you could skip End of the World.
I disagree.
Because I think you're told enough about the Time Lords and the war enough in other episodes so that you could miss it.
You have to bear in mind that one, not only do I think End of the World does a good job of showing how the Doctor carries that guilt, again, with how he starts crying when Jabe brings up the Time Lords and stuff, but also when you think about the very next episode in The Unquiet Dead, when the Gelth say that they were victims of the Time War, and then you get that shot of the Doctor looking really, like, sheepish. Do you know what I mean? That does not pay off if you haven't watched The End of the World.
I still think you probably could.
I mean, you could, like, you can, but like that's my argument as to why you can't like just pull an episode out of this and pop it somewhere else, or vice versa. Do you know what I mean? Like, every episode in here sets something up which pays off in the parting of the ways, and yeah, that's one of the reasons I think why series 1 is as good and as strong and as polished as it is.
That's fair enough. Should we have like a little round off? Do have one question for you.
Yeah.
Where would you improve this season? And there's got to be something.
Where would I improve series 1? I would double check the humor in the first maybe 4 or 5 episodes.
I completely agree. Yeah.
I think it really finds its footing as it goes along. In terms of the humor, I don't think there's any like bad cringe humor, say Dalek onwards. But yeah, there's Slitheen's farting. Again, the concept of them farting in general, I don't mind. It's just like that one scene goes on for so long.
Yeah.
It's the honey babe sugar thing.
I think it's. I know it's the whole point, but for me, I think it's too cheesy in Bad Wolf.
I don't think it is. It's a little cheesy, but I think it's found its tone by that point, to the point where it is a little cheesy, but it doesn't pull me out of the story. Where like during the honey babe sugar, I immediately am ripped out, and I think, why did they do that? someone made that choice,
yeah,
and then someone else okayed it.
Yeah, that's true.
Where I think like the whole android or the what not to wear thing, I maybe it's just because it's my sense of humor, but I find it funny, so it's fine. But yeah, I think the humor in the beginning and to be honest, maybe I'd have to think about it a little more, but off the top of my head, that's it. I can't think of where else I'd improve it. I think, with the exception of the long game being probably one of the most just middling episodes, once you don't take into account obviously the fact that it sets up the finale, but like in terms of its own story, it's a bit middling. But other than that, I'd say Dalek onwards is all pretty much perfect TV. That's not to say every episode is like 10 out of 10, but like there's no dud in there at that point, I think.
For me, I think I have a couple of pointers where I would probably change.
Okay.
Or I think what might improve it. I agree with the tone. I think I love the sarcasm bits.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the humour is too cheesy and too much for me. I think it does, not fully, but it does improve going on to series 2.
Okay.
I think the humour...
What's the humour you don't like then? Is it like the stuff that's a bit more like fourth wall breaking, or...?
Again, it's like... Do you mean it's the cheese? It's like But
like you could argue, like, say, Jack Harkness as a character is cheesy. So
yeah.
It's like, what specifically turns you off?
Again, I think it's... Like we said with Mickey, the aliens, I know the humour's kind of dumbed down.
You think
whereas Jack is...
It's a bit low-hanging fruit, you think?
Yeah, whereas Jack is cheesy, but it's kind of like, that's his character.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, personally, I'd like a lot of the villains to be more effective.
In terms of what? In terms of being scary?
Yes, I think Dalek sets a standard so well. Nothing goes close.
I quite like the Reapers in Father's Day.
I do, but
obviously they don't have as much personality because they don't talk.
But then they're scary in the sense of like similar to the Daleks. They don't care. You
can't reason with it.
No.
It's there to consume, and that's what it will do.
It doesn't care what you are.
Yeah.
It just takes, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I obviously...
It's like, I know what you mean. It's like the Jagrafess isn't scary.
No, but I don't mind the Reapers not being scary because they are the villain of the week, but they're not. Do you mean?
Yeah, we talked about this a little more in the episode, but they're pretty much there to be a catalyst to make the character drama happen.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas, again, like...
The Empty Child's kind of scary.
It is, and again, I think that's quite effective, but I think there is a couple more things you could do to tweak it, to change it a little bit. I know I've spoken about the Slitheen.
Yeah. Again, Blonde as a character I find really interesting, but the
Boomtown
Slitheen
gets closer to it, but
the Slitheen as a Monster of the Week format is not super scary. I think what's scarier is everything they did off screen.
Yeah, I completely agree.
The way they managed to sneak into politics and not just get themselves into a position of power, but the fact that they went home and lived these people's personal lives.
Yeah.
And no one seemed to notice. And the
Yeah.
fact that they faked, like they made a hoax alien crash just to divert attention away from themselves. I find that stuff more scary than anything we see them do on screen.
Yeah, and I love the fact that, again, Blonde says it, but we also get it in Aliens of London. They reference to, oh, I had a little human life, which I enjoyed. And it's like, it's like, as the Doctor says, you've literally killed someone and taken over their skin. Like,
yeah.
And they just for fun, like, oh, well, I guess I'm here. I guess I'll just carry on with their life.
Yeah.
I wish we had more of that. I think they played off as comic relief too much.
It would have been interesting if you combined that idea with something like the kind of tone of Spyfall.
Yeah.
If you imagine like an espionage thriller kind of episode where there's a mole somewhere leaking information or something like that, and one of them is a Slitheen, and you have to work out who it is. That maybe would be more interesting than...
That's kind of like the... Oh my god, what's it called? Zygon Invasion, Zygon Inversion, though.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Which, again, I think is a pretty cool episode. I like, because it's like you don't know who to trust.
Yeah.
But I think I love those bits, and I think we don't get enough of them. We get too much time spent on gas exchange.
Yeah,
So,
I like the gas exchange as a concept. I think it's not only quite sci-fi in terms of just having a seemingly pointless thing that happens just for the sake of world building, but also that being the giveaway. So like when the copper knocks on Jackie's door and then he sits down and then he farts and you're like, oh my god, he's one of them. Like, I think it's quite effective in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you get that, in the entirety of this two-parter, you only needed like 2 or 3 farts.
Yeah.
You did not need that one sequence where it's just like 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it's just them laughing at farting. It's like, I don't know.
Because it makes no sense for them to laugh at farting, because they're uncomfortable in these suits, and the gas exchange is because they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So why are they finding it funny? So yeah, I think generally this season, I think that is my main bugbear. The monsters don't feel that monstrous.
I like it when the humour is being cheeky. That's what I think. I think the android thing is cheeky. I think
it's too cheesy for me. I think it's a very thin line with a lot of the humour.
I'm very much okay with it.
I know you are. I know you love it.
I think about the end of the world when Cassandra says like, and now a composition from one of Earth's most classical composers, and then starts playing like Tainted Love.
Well, I do love
like,
that.
I quite like those cheeky little...
See, that again,
things.
that for me is cheeky. Again, very, very close.
Yeah.
Do you mean? Yeah. But I like that. But yeah, I think in many cases, I don't feel like the Doctor's in trouble.
You don't buy the stakes?
I don't buy the stakes. And like I said in Parting of the Ways, I think if the Daleks had been a lot more effective, you would fear his death more.
Yeah, I don't know. See, that's interesting, because I very much do buy the stakes in Parting of the Ways. That feels very naturally occurring, and I do feel like... I think it helps the fact that everyone dies in that story.
But I think maybe that's something that you like about it, but for me, going through it, I didn't feel like they were going to die. I thought the Doctor was going to save them somehow, but I think if it had been more fast-paced, and if it had been... the Daleks had been even scarier, I think I could have been like, oh my god, there's no way he could save these people. These people are doomed.
Do you think they should have introduced the Daleks earlier? Instead of having the Dalek reveal be the cliffhanger to Bad Wolf, do you think we maybe should have had another like 20 minutes with the Daleks? Would that have done that for you, do you think?
No, I just think it's, again, the fact that... I know it's the whole shock factor, but there's so many Daleks.
Yeah.
Like I said, they could they could.
How would you make the Daleks scarier?
I'd have less of them.
Okay.
Because I think that many is too many, and it kind of too much of a good thing.
Okay.
And like I said before, I think I would have more of them overrunning the station. Because if your plan is to kill them all off anyway, do it in style. Get them all. Don't have 3 Daleks kill a load of people. Have a load of Daleks, or have one. Do you know what I mean? Like, either, do the extreme. Either have it completely taken over, or just send one Dalek in to kill them all.
One Dalek reaffirms that they only need one.
Yeah, and the rest...
having a room of like 20 just reaffirms how many there are. No, I understand that, yeah.
So I think it's
there are
mainly
supposed to be thousands of them, but we only ever see... like 6 together at any one time.
Yeah, and I know obviously that's going to be budgetary things.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of Daleks to make. Saying that, though, they did use CGI on the spaceship, so...
Yeah, but I think once you start using CGI in the room with them, it looks a bit...
And I know obviously CGI then was...
not very good.
And extremely expensive.
Yeah. I mean, you think of all the CGI shots from Dalek. You think of like when the casing opens and it's like, it's obvious that it is CGI.
Yeah. But I think that's how I would have done it. I think mainly a numbers thing to make it more...
No, that's interesting. Like I say, it's not an issue for me, but I think if you could go in George Lucas style and you could edit those episodes to either have a lot more Daleks or a lot fewer Daleks, I don't think I would have a problem with it.
Yeah, I think that's things like that. Small changes. And I know a lot of people could probably say they're very nitpicky, but I think it would have a big impact.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of the thing I would change. But again, I understand it wasn't as big in the first season series.
It was a gamble at this point.
It was a gamble, and they didn't have that much money, and probably didn't have that much time either. So you kind of just had to go with it.
Yeah.
And you know, I think it's still effective. I still think it's still good, but there is things I'd improve upon, and I think you can see from series 2 that those things mainly are improved upon.
Yeah.
But I just dislike the relationship between the Doctor and Rose.
In series 2?
Yeah, dislike it more than I do in series 1.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah,
That's
cool.
pretty much my thoughts on series 1. Any other things for you?
Not really. I think we've pretty thoroughly kind of gone through. Like I say, I think a lot of the things I would have said, we've kind of already said throughout these past 10 episodes, where we've covered them episode by episode, and anything kind of left dangling we've mentioned.
Yeah, so should we just say one last time what our favourite episode of the series was?
Yeah, sure.
So mine was Unquiet Dead.
Mine was The Parting of the Ways.
And what was your least favourite?
The Long Game.
And mine was Rose. Again, let us know how you feel.
Yeah, put down below. I mean, if you could be bothered to think about it that hard,
fair.
Put your ranking down there. If you don't want to think that hard, then at least put your favourite or your least favourites. Anything you want to say, I'm very interested. I'm always, browsing around Reddit or anything like that just to hear people's takes on stuff. And with this being one of those series that sits very close to my heart, I very much just like to hear people's thoughts on it in general.
I think it's interesting as well because there's in many cases you can hear somebody's opinion and they can bring something up that you never thought about before.
Yeah.
And that can kind of sway your opinion
it's
a little bit.
It's exciting when that happens because I hear so often that people just parrot the same arguments over and over again. So when you actually hear someone come up with a unique perspective, a unique take, it's genuinely exciting, as sad as that sounds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I've never heard that before. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, by all means, stick it down there in the comments. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
next time on the podcast, we will be going... Well, I'll give it over to you.
You're going to give it to me?
Yeah.
Next episode is going to be the coverage of the 2005 Christmas special, The Christmas Invasion. It's the first episode of Mr. David Tennant, the 10th Doctor. Charlotte will be sitting that one out, and it will be me and my good friend Rob.
Our good friend Rob.
Yes, our good friend Rob, covering the Christmas Invasion. It's a lengthy one. It's about 2.5 hours, I think. But
I'm not surprised.
I had a lot of fun recording it. It was very fun. So I recommend listening to it nonetheless, even though little Charlotte won't be there.
No, but I will be listening. So, yeah.
She's always listening.
Always listening. Yeah, so I'll look forward to listening to that myself. But yeah, so I'll see you the week after. When we are back for an episode that I forgot the name of.
You can tell you're not used to doing this.
No, also can't remember names.
Do you want me to take this outro?
No. Well,
No?
yeah, go on then.
Okay. So after that, we'll be covering Series 2, Episode 1. It's New Earth.
Yeah.
So that'll be our first full adventure with Rhodes and the 10th Doctor. That'll be me and Charles back together at that point. But yeah, anything else you want to say?
That's all for me.
No? Cool. So until then, thank you all for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel to keep up with all this stuff. Alternatively, you can follow us over on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts to keep up with us over there, if that's your streaming platform of choice.
Let us know if you enjoyed this special. If so, we're planning on probably doing one for the end of every season.
I've enjoyed this quite a bit. So yeah, I think if we did this at the end of every season, that could be a nice little change of pace for instead of just doing an episode recap.
A bit more of a lengthy quiz.
It was nice for me to not have to do any research and just just let you put some stuff together and just show up and talk. That's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, thank you all for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.